Welcome to the Kingdom Sleeps. Tonight, I'll be reading several extracts from the personal journal of Kiren Nofu, son of Kenhart, the servant supreme of the Harvesters Guild, as he recounts the events before and after his incredible experiences with Yohm and Tonto in the deserts of Schwertsuna. As always, thank you so much to our Patreon supporters. We really couldn't make this show without you. If you're enjoying the show so far and would like to help support, you can find a link to our Patreon in the description notes. And with that, close your eyes, make yourselves comfortable, and join us where the kingdom sleeps. Entry 1. If I have to shake off one more grain of this wretched Schwertsuna sand from my boots, I swear I will lose my mind. I am a born Nofu, son of the Servant Supreme. I was raised in the highest halls of Sunkolt, educated by the most brilliant minds marks can procure. Yet I am made to suffer here, trudging through the barren, lifeless dunes of the deep south like some common labourer, choking on the dust that trails behind the houndbacks. My father claims this expedition will build character. He says that a true leader of the harvesters must know the grit of the earth, that I must understand the land just as he did when he was a boy on the farms of Sentoki. Well, with all due respect to the man, he holds on to the past too dearly. We live in the modern age. Utter marvels of bright stone innovation have taken place in the last 20 seasons alone. The Toho tractor and rudimentary potentiation has made the sort of farming my father did when he was a boy almost obsolete in the space of generations. And yet, my father insists I drag myself across the desert on foot, shepherded by an old, drunken Duergar who doesn't even have the respect to address me by my proper title. He treats me like I'm just another fresh-faced apprentice. More so than the others, I know it. Out of jealousy, I suppose. Worse still is the guide they hired. A merfolk in the desert. You couldn't make it up. And he wanders around, wrapped in ragged cloth, acting as if he's the Wei-Shi Sand Spirit himself. His arrogance is honestly insufferable. He claims to understand the land and the wild Mamu better than the guilds, when we all know there is very little that need be understood about the glorified pests. The Harvesters Guild is meant to tame the land, to extract its resources for the betterment of Sopros, not dilly-dally with feral spirits. I belong in the upper tier of Sunkolt, studying Schwertsuna and the other great texts, negotiating trade routes, preparing to take my father's mantle. Instead, I'm forced to camp in the freezing night, shivering in a flimsy tent, listening to the guttural snoring of an old Duergar while our supposed guide wanders off into the dark of the night. My father knows little of how he has humiliated me by placing me here. I know well enough that he thinks me too impatient, that I have still more to learn simply by virtue of my youth. He thinks I need to be broken down. But I will show him. I will survive this miserable excursion, as well as any other menial task he sees fit to labour upon me to prove my competence. And then I shall return to Sunkolt to claim my rightful place. Soon enough he will see the mistake of his actions. My skill and superiority will become so painfully clear that he will forget entirely about his apprenticeship nonsense. Truly, I know that, deep down, he sees I am ready, though his pride will not allow him to fully admit it. But he will, and until then, I will endure. Entry 2. I scarcely know how to hold my pencil steady. My hands have not stopped trembling for 2 days. Everything I thought I knew about the world, about myself, has been shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. It all started. It all happened on the morning of our approach. We awoke to find a gigantic serpentine mamu looming over our encampment, one of the largest I had ever seen, staring down at us with uncharacteristic, inky black eyes. Ren and the other apprentices were paralyzed with fear. Even Yohm, the supposedly great desert guide, seemed hesitant, performing some sort of peculiar ritual with weeds in an attempt to appease it. Looking back now, I feel ashamed to say this, but my immediate reaction was one of great fury. I was enraged with what I perceived to be the great disrespect of this mamu in so formidably encroaching upon our space. I began to step forward and assert my authority, demanding it to leave our encampment. It all happened so quickly, and after this, my memories become more and more fractured and cloudy. I can barely comprehend the sequence of events. All I know is that a fraction of a moment later, I was consumed and plunged into darkness. Then, I opened my eyes, and I was not in the belly of a beast. I was in a vast, ethereal jungle. Trees, taller than the highest towers of Sunkolt, scraped a pale yellow sky. Everything shimmered with a ghostly, iridescent light. I truly felt I had perished, and my soul had been flung to the furthest edge of the ethereal sea. Quickly after, I was fallen upon by a pack of dark-eyed mamu spirit with arresting claws and threatening jaws, moving with jagged and unnerving pace. They began to drag me into the heart of this realm as I passed through forest, glacier, river, and jungle. It felt more like a dream than any dream I'd ever had before. Once arrived at a jungle clearing, they pinned me upon a throne woven from rubble and vine. Completely debilitated, a strange serpentine tendril began to wrap itself tightly around my neck and head. And then, I saw it. A violently searching, panicked eye, made of void, that forcefully pried open my mind and flooded down the corridors of my sense of self like an inky black smoke. I could feel it hoarding my most painful emotions from the shelves of my memories and ransacking the rest as it went. Everything else is quite unclear for me from then on. I cannot say quite what happened to me. At first, I thought I began to be infused with the dark emotions of this shadowy essence that had taken hold of me. It was not just anger. It was a deep, crushing bitterness. A profound, consuming fear. But these feelings were sharply replaced by a flooding sense of pride, arrogance, and greed that twisted my mind into a mania. I remember feeling a sickening sense of validation created by this black nothingness. I have flashing visions of banging drums and bright white lights, but the intense swirl of fear and pride intoxicated my mind into a sheer delirium that makes the rest too difficult to follow. The next clear moment was awaking on the floor of the desert sands. 2 huge, pink, winged mamu looming over me, as well as the small yellow mamu I later came to understand had been befriended by Yohm in the jungle, whilst he bravely succeeded in dragging me from that dismal scenario. They healed me of my wounds, something I was never aware was possible of mamu. I've never felt so profoundly ashamed. I was forced to face the ugliest parts of myself in that jungle. The mamu's bitterness amplified my own petty, egotistical desires. It showed me exactly who I was, a frightened, arrogant boy, desperate for a crown. I do not know how to live with this new shame. I could barely speak to Yohm after he had rescued me, despite the immense gratitude I owed him. I do not know what to do next. Entry 3. We have returned to Sunkolt. We are staying at the new Harvesters Guild outpost, a hastily constructed, ugly building made of uncut desert wood and quick-drying cement. It is loud, crowded, and chaotic here, but I barely notice my surroundings. I have sequestered myself in the barracks, keeping my head down, avoiding the eyes of the other apprentices. I cannot stop drawing. My journal is filled to the margins with frantic sketches. I draw the twisting, jagged pines of the ethereal jungle. I draw the strange, reptilian mamu. I draw the colossal, unblinking eye of the great perceiver that appeared to me in a singular, terrifying dream the night after I was rescued. The image of that eye is burned into the back of my eyelids. I draw it over and over, trying to recapture the kaleidoscopic colours, the profound, heavy presence it carried. I do not do it justice. I find now that there is a duality tearing me apart from the inside. On the one hand, during my waking hours, I feel an inexplicable, surging vitality. When those pink mamu healed me in the desert, they didn't just mend my bruised body, they left a spark with me. I feel lighter. The petty grievances that used to consume me, my rank, my father's strictness, my disdain for the dirt, they all seem so incredibly trivial now. I feel a strange, quiet connection to the humming energy of the world, something I never noticed before. But when I sleep, the nightmares come. I am back on that throne of vines. I feel the thick, cold tendril wrap around my throat. But instead of the manic euphoria, I am drowning in the inky blackness of the mamu's eyes. I feel the sheer, unadulterated terror of a creature that is losing its mind, a spirit corrupted by darkness it cannot fight. I wake up in a cold sweat, gasping for air, clawing at my own neck to remove a vine that is no longer there. What happened to me in that dreamscape? Why did the mamu's darkness latch onto me so easily? I'm terrified that a piece of that shadow still remains within me somehow, dormant, but waiting. The guild insists the mamu are mindless beasts turning violent. The guards are building walls of brightstone to keep them out, but I know the truth now. They are not mindless. They are full of life, and they are suffering. And for a brief, terrifying moment, their suffering became mine. And there is no question in this. I must find out why. Entry 4. A breakthrough. A terrifying, beautiful, impossible breakthrough. Yohm had returned to Sunkolt and visited me in the barracks today. He looked very different. His eyes, the pupils have reshaped themselves into the distinct hexagons of the Mamu. It is an unsettling sight, but beneath it, I saw a kindness and a clarity that I had been too blind to recognize in the desert. He brought with him the small yellow Mamu, Tonto. I finally had the chance to swallow my pride and thank Yohm for all that he did. I confessed my shame. I told him how the jungle had exposed my business, how the Mamu's fear had fed on my own. Yohm did not mock me. He did not gloat. He simply told me that the brush with danger brings out the truth in all of us. Then, he asked me to do something quite absurd. I hesitated at first, the memory of the ethereal jungle causing my heart to race, but I obeyed. I shut out the world. I felt a slight, weightless pressure wash over the top of my head. It was Tonto. In the absolute silence and darkness of my own mind, it happened. A wave of emotion washed over me, so pure, so untainted, that it took my breath away. It was not spoken in words, but I felt it. I felt a radiant, bubbling happiness, a profound sense of safety and relief, an emotion more clear than any emotion I'd had of my own. It was Tonto, reaching out to me. He was telling me that he was glad I could understand him. I felt his joy echo in my own chest, washing away the lingering shadows of my nightmares like a cool river over a fevered brow. I opened my eyes, tears prickling at the corners. I looked at Yohm, completely stunned. Yohm smiled. He told me that I was not crazy. He told me that I share an empathetic connection with Tonto, a bond forged in the crucible of that giant serpent Mamu. He explained that he had undergone a similar change and that we, together, were tied to the spirits now. This changes everything. The teachings of the Light God of the Colossus, they are not just parables, they are real. The Mamu possesses a depth of feeling and intelligence that the royal guilds have entirely dismissed. If I can feel Tonto's joy, then the darkness I felt in the jungle was real too. The Mamu are being corrupted, twisted by some unseen force, and they are crying out for help. I cannot simply return to my ledgers and crop rotations now. I have experienced the magic of the world. I have to know more. Entry 5. I slipped away from the Harvester's outpost this afternoon and navigated the windy, layered streets of Sunkolt, ascending the great Kaltoka Mound towards the academy. I needed answers, and Yohm had mentioned a name, Eli Shinrik, a Mamu professor here in Sunkolt and a known follower of the Light Guard. Shinrik's office was a chaotic mess of raw bright stone, ancient scrolls and bubbling glass vials. He is an eccentric, nervous man, but his eyes hold a sharp intelligence. When I finally cornered him and explained what had happened, the possession, the empathetic link with Tonto, the sudden clarity, he practically dragged me into his study and locked the door. He told me things that made my blood run cold. He spoke of the black matter, of an occult iridescent fluid that had been appearing in the Deadlands, possessing people and Mamu alike, twisting them into aggressive, dark-eyed husks. And he told me that the Light Guard believe this corruption is tied to the unrest of the Colossus itself, lying in its gentle slumber beneath our feet. Then he looked at me with a solemn gravity and said, "You will not find the answers you seek in Sunkolt. You must go to Morrowind." Ha! Morrowind, the capital city, the heart of the forest tribe and the home of the Basher Gross Temple, the central sanctum of the Light Guards of the Colossus. Shinrik insists that the elders there hold secret knowledge about the Awoken Ones and the Dream Benders, ancient folk who could communicate with the Mamu, just as Yohm and I are beginning to do. But to go to Morrowind, to seek out the Light Guard, it means abandoning the Harvesters Guild. It means abandoning my post. It means abandoning my father. My chest aches with conflict. My father has dedicated his entire life to the guild, climbing from the dirt farms of Sentoki to the highest halls of power. He expects me to follow in his footsteps. I've spent my entire life desperate for his approval, desperate to prove that I am worthy of his legacy. If I abandon my apprenticeship to chase after spiritual myths and Mamu magic, he will see it as the ultimate betrayal. It would be a profound disgrace to our family name. Yet, how can I ignore what I've felt? How can I return to studying irrigation techniques when I have felt the joy of a Mamu humming in my mind? I want to make my father proud, but I feel an undeniable pull, a destiny that is calling me away from the fields and into the deep, mystical heart of Sopros. I'm standing at a crossroads, and I fear that whichever path I choose, I will necessarily break a part of myself. Entry 6. The decision is made. I'm leaving. It happened late last night. The outpost was quiet. The other apprentices asleep. I stood on the balcony, overlooking the lower tiers of Sunkolt, staring out at the dead land dust storms way out on the distant horizon. The desert wind was cool, carrying the faint scent of roasting spices from the markets below. My mind was a storm of guilt and hesitation, swinging wildly between my duty to my father and the terrifying pull of the unknown. That's when I saw it. Wandering through the quiet, moonlit streets below, fastidiously yet elegantly evading the scattered bright stone wards, was a blue Mamu, so very rare in Schwertsuna. It was a bird-like spirit, moving with a slow, melancholic grace, shimmering softly in the dark. The people of Sunkolt are used to the nomadic spirits, so they paid no mind. But as I looked down at it, it stopped. It tilted its head upwards, and its hexagonal eyes met mine. Despite the distance, the empathetic link flared to life. It was not the joy of Tonto, nor the corrupted rage of the jungle serpent. It was a profound, ancient sadness, a weariness. I felt a quiet plea echoed in my mind. It said, "We are hurting. We are lost." It was a gentle tug on my soul, but it hit me with the force of a physical blow. The connection tipped me over the edge. I cannot turn my back on them. The guilds want to build walls and mine Brightstone, blind to the fact that they are tearing apart the very fabric of Eversea. My father believes the harvesters are the lifeblood of Sopros, but the Mamu are Sopros. They are the dreams of the Colossus, and if they suffer, the land will die. I cannot face my father. If I look into his eyes, if I see the disappointment and the shame I am about to bring upon him, my resolve will shatter. I know I have already caused him grief with my arrogance, and this desertion will humiliate him before the entire council. I am a coward for leaving like this, in secret, in the dead of night. But it is the only way I can force myself to go. I have packed a small satchel with provisions, my journal, and the remaining harvester's marks I have to my name. I have left a small note so that no one need worry, and left it on top of my folded guild apprentice cape on my cot. That cape belongs to a boy who thought he knew everything. A boy who died in the belly of a dream. I have arranged late-night travel by sled with a trader by the name of Gonthin to the northern shore of Schwertsuna, where I will thereafter ferry further north still, towards Moriworld, where I will find the Light Guard, and hopefully the answers I seek. I must forge my own path now, even if I have to walk it in the dark. May the Great Perceiver watch over my father whilst I am gone, and by the Eye, may he forgive me.